channel, and if you are new here, hi, my name is Dixie, and I do makeup and lifestyle type videos, or whatever I want. Today I am going to do something a little bit more personal. It is the hardest things that have happened to me throughout my entire life that I've had to go through. So I am telling you these things out of trying more so to help anyone who's gone through hard times, maybe to be something a little bit more relatable, to help other people go through other hard times and just show that I am human as well, and I have gone through hard things just as you have. I hope that this can hopefully open up some conversations and being more comfortable with mental health and just life struggles. So, the first one is when I was 6 years old. I actually broke my arm. It was my left arm. It was actually my elbow. I was playing outside in the treehouse. I think this was times way before cell phones too. So my dad was working in the garage and I was in the backyard playing in my treehouse. I was climbing up the ladder to go up to where the slide and the little hangout area was, and there was like a little pool floaty in the way of some sort, I think it was, and I remember I grabbed it and threw it back and I fell as well. And I remember I fell and I looked down and like right here on my arm, the bone was like stretching the skin out and like poking through, and that was pretty terrifying. And I just remember I got up with my other arm and ran to where my dad was, and I just cried and it was like, showed him my arm. So my mom was actually away at this time. Again, no cell phones. So it was him trying to reach her to tell her what happened and that we're going to hospital and what hospital we were going to. Luckily, he was able to get hold of her, and I went to primary children. I think first we went to like a local hospital that was just a normal everyday hospital, and they told us to go to a children's hospital. So we drove up. My family was newer to Utah at the time, so they had to figure out where that was and how to get there. And then I ended up having to go into surgery. So I remember being at the regular hospital and they asking me if I wanted to take a ride in the ambulance up there, and I said no, and I'm sure my dad was like, thank God, because that's expensive. And so I just rode up there with my dad, and then I remember coming out of surgery and they were like, hey, look at your arm, and it was all orange, and yeah. So the next thing, so that was pretty mild going into it. I mean, I was little. I had a pretty great childhood, and I'm very, very thankful for that. A very loving family. I still do. So the next one was when I was 18. I was in a really bad relationship. This guy, I just thought he was cute, but he had some very bad red flag qualities. And he used to be a drug user. I'm sure he still is now. He was a drug user when I first met him, and he said he was sober. He hasn't done it for a while, and I trusted him. Flash forward maybe just a month or a couple months, he started hanging out with these different types of people, and there's a whole bunch of girls, and he wouldn't introduce me to these girls. So I thought maybe he's cheating on me. And he started talking about, he's like, oh yeah, I'm starting to do, I don't even remember what type of drug it was. And so one day, like, I confronted him on that, eventually. So, going through the relationship, it's like kind of unclear out of my head. So going through that relationship, I just remember I was so depressed and anxious. I was still in high school. I was about to graduate, and I was going through these hard times, and I was telling him how I was depressed, and he just kind of was like, brushed me off. Go talk to my buddy over here. He might be able to help you. I was like, oh, okay, maybe he just doesn't understand where I'm coming from, and so he's trying to help me by letting me talk to one of his friends that he knows has gone through issues. Now, at this point, I was kind of hurt by it because I'm like, why won't you let me open up to you? And then flash forward back to what I was saying, he started telling me he was getting high, and I remember it wasn't just weed, because I don't really care if you do pot or do pot, smoke weed or whatever. That's your thing. I don't care. But it was a hallucinogen, and I was like, that is a drug. Why are you doing drugs again? And he said, oh, it's not a drug, and it's hardly a drug, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, you hallucinate on it, and you could go to jail for it if you get caught. And shortly after, I confronted him about everything. I told him, I do not want you doing drugs. I do not think hanging out with these other girls, like, it makes me worry. And he got super defensive and got really angry. So I ran to my car and just started bawling my eyes out. He came to approach me, and he opened up my front door, and I just pushed him out and threw him. I think I had like his jacket or something. I threw his jacket and pushed him out and locked my doors, and I screamed and cried, and I ended up punching my steering wheel. It's kind of a funny story now. I punched my steering wheel, and I broke my hand, and at first I didn't realize. It just kind of hurt, so I was like, oh, I must have just punched it hard, and then it was starting to swell really bad. And at this time, his brother actually came and started talking to me. He's like, hey, are you okay? Like, he was super nice. And then I was like, I think I broke my hand. I was finally able to calm down, and I tried to just put my seatbelt on with my other hand, and I just barely touched it, and shooting pain shot through. So I called my mom, and she came and got me. It was like really late at night, and we went to the hospital. Sure enough, I got a really bad boxer's fracture. If you don't know what that means, it's pretty much the way you punch breaks like a lower bone down here. So you can actually see my scar. So I had to have surgery on this one too, because of pretty much a mentally abusive relationship. I didn't go into super much detail. It's just because I try to block that out, and I've already dealt with that. But it was a really unhealthy relationship with not a lot of trust, not a lot of support, not a lot of honesty. And so we ended up, of course, breaking up. And even though I broke my hand, I felt so much better. Like, mentally, I didn't feel as depressed. Now I still struggle with like depression and extreme anxiety. So anxiety now is like one of my biggest things, and I feel like that comes up a lot during my stressful moments in life. So, but yeah, on that note, I broke my hand over some stupid, lame dude, but it was all a learning curve. I definitely learned a lot from it, and I learned what big red flags to look for in relationships before I jump all in. And since that relationship ended, and luckily it didn't last very long either, I met the love of my life, and I'm so thankful for. So the third one, that was probably one of my hardest moments, was our house got broken into. It's probably been about 2 years now. So it was summer of 2018. So, me and Skylar were both at work, and it was just a casual day at work. We had the Ring doorbell. We just barely got it at this time. And it was the last day of our 30-day free trial for the full access one, where it saves like longer amounts of data and that sort of thing. So I was at work and I got a notification on my phone from the Ring doorbell app. I look it up and there's a guy standing there. And I was like, oh, maybe it's just a sales guy. I didn't say anything and I didn't answer it. So I just kind of looked at him and I was like, what is he doing? Oh, he's probably just a sales guy. And then I continued on with my work day. Now, Skylar and I have usually gone home for lunch in the middle of our work day. Both of our works are close enough that we can do that. So, Skylar gets home for lunch before I did, and actually wasn't I don't think I was planning on going home for lunch. And I was working, and he calls my cell phone a couple of times, and I don't answer. Then he calls my work phone, and my manager answers, and he's like, I need to talk to Dixie right now, it's an emergency. So she forwards the phone over to me, and he just says, our house is broken into. And I was like, what? I didn't believe him. It's like, okay, I'll be right there. And I told my manager, she let me go. And sure enough, our house was broken into. So I get there and he is inside. So I'm like scared because I'm like, what if someone's in there and they hurt him? Like, thinking, of course, of the worst things imaginable at this moment, the scariest day. And plus we have 2 dogs. So he actually comes back outside while I would come out, or when I get home, and he's like, hey, and I asked him, I was like, what happened? Like, tell me the details. So it's like, no one's in the house. I checked, police are on their way, and he said when he got home, the front door was ajar, and he thought that was really weird. And you walk into the house, so you walk in to our front door, and it's our living room area, and our TV is sitting right behind our couch. And so our couch is like, so there's a doorway and there's a walkway, and our couch is like over to the side. And so you see it right when you walk in, it's right behind the couch. And he starts worrying. He's like, oh my God, the dogs, are they okay? Our dogs are kenneled. So I am really happy that we were new to this house. And anytime we're somewhere new, Link loves to start trying to run away. So he goes and checks on the dogs. He said that's the only reason why he actually entered the house at this time, was to check up on them. Other than that, he wouldn't have, for his own safety. The dogs were okay. They're in their kennel. Our whole house was ransacked through. It was all our cabinets in our TV stand, downstairs, and like our video game stuff, and all our storage areas, and like anywhere that you can think of, our nightstands. So they were in our room too. So you look in our downstairs, there is like a windows. So there's 2 long ones in the big area room, and then we have like a little kitchen area down there, and there's a window right above the sink that looks into our backyard. So they broke into that window and got through, and it's a pretty small window, and went through everything. It looks like there's probably a couple guys, is what the police say. And by this time, we're trying to check our ring door out to see if we can see anyone, see a vehicle, and what type of vehicle it was, anything. I remember from when I first answered the door, there was a white car parked in the gutter outside of our house. Or not the gutter, the curb area. And it was a smaller, older white car. So I remember that. I remember kind of what the guy looked like. He was tall, skinny, and there's probably other guys with him at this time. So he's probably checking to see if anyone was home. And since we didn't answer, they probably went out, and we're right next to a church. The church parking lot is our next door neighbor. And then went through our backyard and broke in there, and went through the house as quick as they could. They grabbed, I think, a trash can of ours and just emptied it onto our floor, and a laundry basket, and dumped all our laundry out and just filled it with things. So we had a whole bunch of video games stolen. Luckily, there's expensive things, but wasn't anything except for one thing that was something that was, I think it's actually two things of Skylar's that really meant something to him. So, of course, the police came. We didn't touch anything. We let them look around. We did a report of anything that was missing. And we asked them a couple questions. So for your knowledge, too, to prevent any break-ins, we had our security system. So we forgot to set it that day. So we haven't forgot to set it any day since. So it's important. Even if you're in the best areas of town, lock your doors and set your alarm system. We have glass break detections too. So if anybody breaks a glass, even if someone's in their house and they drop a drinking glass, it'll probably go off, the security system said, or company. And we have our Ring doorbell app. So since we weren't able to go back, we renewed our subscription. And it wasn't too expensive either. It's like a yearly thing. I don't remember, under $100, I believe. And keep an eye on that. And anytime someone comes to our door, even if it's obvious that they're a salesperson, they have a clipboard, they have the name tag, anything, we always just answer, "Hey, how can I help you?" We don't let them know that we're not inside. We just make up an excuse. Even if we're at work and we're like, "Hey, how can I help you?" And they're like, "Hey, can you come to the door so I can talk to you?" We always just say, "Hey, sorry, I'm in the middle of something. I can't right now." And sometimes we're like, "Hey, you can come back later. I'm free at this time." Or, we try not to because we don't like salesy, pitchy stuff. So that's something that we kind of figured out is better home security stuff. So we have that. We have locks on our gate to our backyard that is pretty sturdy. And we added some lighting to our carport area. So that way, if it is late at night and someone's trying to snoop around, that it detects it and they're like, "Oh crap, now they can see me." And then we have cameras that face into our backyard too. So we kind of try to do some deterrent stuff to help prevent that, even though it likely won't happen again. We talked to our neighbors too. He has lived here for, I think he said 20, 25 years. And he's never had anything like this happen. The area isn't that bad of an area. It's not the best in Utah, but it is not a bad part of town. And so it was just kind of weird, and we've been super shaken up about it. So, yeah. Shortly after that happened, our Kirby, our little Chihuahua, had some really major urinary problems. So we took him to the animal hospital about 20 to 30 minutes from our house. That was probably the best in Salt Lake. And that one was during the weekend, and they just said he probably just has a really bad UTI. Here's some medicine. We're like, okay, that should clear up here in the next 12 hours to 24 hours. He didn't show any sign of improvement. He was having really bad problems. He couldn't go potty whenever we went outside, but he continued to lift his leg but still couldn't pee. And there's one time we just had him laying there and he exploded pee all over. So we took him back to the hospital because we felt something was really, really wrong. And he ended up having, it was bladder stones. And so the stones were blocking his urinary tract so he couldn't release pee. They said he was really inflamed, and it was a good thing that we came in because his bladder could explode. And it was pretty darn close to exploding. So that was not fun. And we come in, we talk to the doctor about what's going on. He needs surgery. We figure out the amount. It's a big, big financial hit. It was a few $1,000s. And then there's just a little bit of communication stuff happening too. So they're like, okay, surgery is going to happen Monday, so that way you guys don't have to pay weekend emergency costs, and we can keep him stabilized overnight until then. So I said, okay, thank you. They understood we were struggling, and they know it is an expensive thing to deal with. And they said, okay, you can pick him up the next day. After, okay, so I went to go pick him up, and they said, sorry, he has to stay here. And they continued to watch him. He continued to have issues. He couldn't pee on his own. He was pretty much relearning how to pee. And he ended up staying there for another week. So that was a big financial thing too. So at the end of it, we had got figured out, and he was just struggling. He had stitches that we had to continuously watch and keep him away from his brother, so his brother didn't rally him up and have him tear a stitch, and it was just really hard. For anyone that has a dog, they know that, or a pet of any kind, your pet is your baby. This is my baby, essentially. I don't have any children, and I just have so much love and care for this little tiny dog. And so that was really hard, and I just remember crying through that. The last thing that has been a lot more recent is, many of you know, I think I mentioned it in Get Ready With Me, is my gallbladder issues and how I went to get surgery. For a long time, I was constantly in pain. It was in my stomach. It was right under my ribs on my right side, and I'd get these pains at night, and then they would go away, and then they'd come back, and then they'd go away. And I tried to look it up, and a lot of stuff said gallbladder, and I was talking to my mom, and she didn't think that's what it was. And of course, you don't want to Google symptoms and assume. So I was like, I should probably schedule a doctor's appointment, but I never really did it, ever got around to it. And so one night, I think it was actually Father's Day or my dad's birthday. I remember we just had bratwurst at my parents' house for something like that. I think it was Father's Day. And we got home, and then I just started getting an immense pain. I was bending over, and I felt like I couldn't walk, and Skylar ended up driving me to the hospital. So I get to the hospital, and they run a couple tests, and sure enough, I had gallstones. They set up surgery and stuff, and surgery is always terrifying to go through, even though it's not really invasive. So that was kind of hard to go through, and I missed a lot of work, and it's kind of scary too to go through that pain and not knowing what was going on for all this time, and then needing surgery. So, I mean, I hope these things, I know a lot of people go through a lot harder stuff, but at the same time, like, I've struggled with mental health issues from things being caused by it and things not causing it. And I hope that you can fight through whatever you're going through. And if you ever need someone to open up to, I am here to just help you get through the hard things. We always have hard things going on in our personal lives, and we need to all stick together and get through it. You're stronger than these experiences. I have learned that myself, and I'm sure I will continue to learn through life. And I hope these things can kind of help open up a subject to maybe mental health, or if you're struggling, for you to be able to feel comfortable to opening up to someone. And I hope too this maybe helps you learn a little bit about me. And yeah, I will talk to you guys later, and see you in my next video. Bye!